मैं एक कहानी सुनना चाहता हूँ आप लोगों को। शायद 35 साल पहले मेरे जीवन का एक अनुभव है, जब मैं आदिवासी लोगों के साथ जीवन बिताना गया था जंगल में। उसका नाम है, सॉरी आई स्पीक इन इंग्लिश, आई नो सम ऑफ यू आर from the south. Jadia was the name of this tribal. He was the one who taught me the difference between welfare and human development, and I'm so glad Rajesh ji brought it out so nicely. He was a primitive tribe, so-called primitive tribe, the way government classifies him. For me, I'm very uncomfortable the way the state defines its citizens by all these words: primitive, vulnerable. Luckily, we have now changed it to saying something positive, aspirational district. Otherwise, we used to call them backward districts. And Jadia was a primitive tribal. And his wife did not have a proper sari to wear. So I thought, being a young doctor, I'm talking of 35, 40 years ago, when I went in there, I thought first thing I must do is provide her a sari, the typical state response of welfare. So I collected a lot of saris from the cities and distributed them amongst the tribals. And the very act of distributing, it is no different whether it's me as an individual or the state as an organization. There's a power dynamic when you give, and you cannot escape that power dynamic. And obviously my ego went sky high because I was distributing saris to the poor. And Jadia had 2 goats, again benefit of the welfare scheme of the state government. Under the ITDP, he had 2 goats, and we had a small piece of land which the government had given me, where we built a school later. So I had planted trees. Every time I would plant trees, Jadia's goats thought it was their fodder, and so I would plant in the morning. By evening, the trees would be grazed. So every evening, I would have a fight with Jadia and say, "Why can't you tie your goats?" And one day, in anger, I tied both his goats to the fence and refused to let it go. So Jadia came to release them. We had an argument, and in the course of the argument, in the arrogance of providing, I said, "Why are you fighting with me? Even the sari that your wife is wearing, I only gave it to you." For 5 minutes, Jadia was quiet, then went back home, came back and threw the sari on my face. And then what he said is what I would like the honorable members here to sort of reflect on for some time. He said, "I'm sorry. I did not realize that you thought you gave me the sari as a provider." We had distributed ragi also. That was a drought year, so we had given a lot of ragi. So I'd used the word ragi and sari. So he said, "I can't give back the ragi because we ate it, but the sari I can give back. I asked my wife to remove it and I'm take your sari back." And he told me, "For a long time I thought you're like a brother and we're all family and so we can share. But the moment you said I gave, I realized that I took and I don't want to take." Now the state does not understand this dynamic. It always wants to give, and today's political economy, we want to keep giving to the point where the state takes away citizens' enterprise, citizens' ability to take care of himself. Now, from a political perspective, it may sound appropriate. So I want to distinguish. The word welfare itself is wrong. There is no Indian word for welfare. जब हम परमार्थ सेवा बात करते हैं, परमार्थ सेवा अलग है, वेलफेयर अलग है. वेलफेयर में डिग्निटी नहीं है. Welfare takes away human dignity. Welfare takes away self-esteem of the person. What we need, and I agree with Rajesh ji, is empowered social protection. There are a set of people below the social safety net, and they need our protection. Protection is different from providing. But unfortunately for us as a nation, the way we have evolved, in 1947 when we got a freedom, 350 million people, 2% was the GDP compared to global GDP. Just from 0 AD to 1600 AD, India's share of global GDP was 38%. We were the richest country in the world. And suddenly in 1940, by the time we got our freedom, we had less than 2% of global GDP, less than 0.5% of global trade. And in that situation, the state had to be a provider. So modern bread se lekar Air India tak sab kuch state ko hi karna pada. But then after that, in 1990s, when we spoke of liberalization, we spoke of deglobalization, joining the global economy, and we also spoke of trickle-down effect. I at the living at the grassroots, I can tell you nothing trickled down, but we built a lot of rich people. That is definite. But then the state became a provisioner. It started provisioning services to citizens. It stopped providing. Today, the Honorable PM talks of Jan Bhagidari. Jan Bhagidari is an enormous evolution of the very understanding of citizen-centric work itself. And to me, that is why I don't believe that we should do welfare. We should Jan Bhagidari is partnership. Partnering with citizens to ensure that they are developed is a completely different concept, which is what today the system is attempting. And I think that is the evolution of India, and that is Amrit Kal we have to look for, where we are not becoming a hierarchical provider saying, मैं ऊपर से आपको दे देता हूँ, आप लेना चाहिए. हम दोनों मिलकर जो करना चाहिए वो करेंगे. So इसमें तो बहुत फ़र्क है. So true empowered evolution of human development, in my opinion, is where the state facilitates investment on human capital, which can actually give me the ability and the opportunity to provide and take care of myself. Now, that is a real welfare the state can do. The state should teach me how to fish, not provide the fish anymore to me. For those below the social safety net, we have to provide. There's no argument about it. That is why I said, as a social protection instrument, we have to do it. But as a universalized instrument, I think the state weakens itself if it keeps providing. And that's a trend that we all have to be aware of as senior legislators who make policies for the nation, for the states. I'm sure all of you will be thinking about it. So to me, the concept of Antyodaya is not the last man down the street. Antyodaya is every citizen whom the state treats with care, compassion, respect and regard, which is a very difficult concept to understand. But I think that is the way we should all look at human progress. And finally, welfare is driven by fighting poverty. Development is driven by enabling prosperity. And there's a huge difference. Fighting poverty ke liye chahiye welfare. I am not arguing against it. But defining poverty is more important. 2 questions asked in the video was, how do you define development? To me, development is a constant expansion of human capability. And ensuring welfare really means how does a state promote building this capability in its citizens. It could be political capability, it could be social capabilities, it could be religious capabilities, it could be economic capabilities, capability in every sense of the word. And that capability which can give me the power to lead and sustain my own life without depending on any instrument of the state. That is true human development. Because the more I depend, I'll start suffering. You may solve income poverty, but you will actually enhance voice poverty. The further you make me depend on a state mechanism, the further you take away my voice and make me weaker in the real sense. So I think human progress and development in a democratic situation is when we share the responsibility of progress. You facilitate that, you create the laws for that, and treat citizens as instruments of partnering with the state to ensure this development. And this call of Jan Bhagidari to me is that high representation. It is not easy because I also have one more role today in the national government as a member of the Capacity Building Commission. It is very difficult. It's very easy to be a provider. देना बहुत आसान है. वो तो egoistically it's very satisfying for the officers also to keep giving. मैं घर दे रहा हूँ, मैं आपको गाय दूंगा, all this kind of giving. But to enable getting is a different thing. And that is a huge challenge. And building that capacity in the system can only come when the legislative thinkers start facilitating that. Because it is, and the moment you start giving, remember, state capacity in delivering services is not as strong as what it should be. And those realities of leakages in governance is a reality too. So the more you keep giving, the more leaks also. So my request to all of you would be, along with looking at what can you do for citizens and their welfare, also look for mechanism to strengthen states' capacity to deliver on that welfare. Because you may make laws in assemblies, but finally the permanent executive is what delivers it. And if the permanent executive is not strong enough, and if they are invested in providing, true partnership will not happen. Real governance is sharing institutional control and institutional agency. It is a very big ask for people to say that let's share Let's break these asymmetries of information, asymmetries of power, and share it with citizens. It's not easy. But if you are truly convinced, that is the welfare you must all think about, where you shift the agency, shift the control, and give it back to citizens. And if you can do that, I think that is the highest expression of real human wellness that the video spoke about. Thank you so much.